Hey everyone, welcome back to ASM Track Tips. My name is Tom O'Gorman from Tom O Coaching, and today we're talking about Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, or Mosport if you're a classic racing fan. It's out in Bowmanville, Ontario, just about an hour east of Toronto, 10 corners and just under 2.5 miles long. And this track is one of my absolute favorites. It's so high speed, so much fast and flow. And they've actually done a lot of work to it in the last decade or so to make it safer, which I think allows it to be a little bit more fun too. So let's jump into some tips. So here's our overhead map of Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and this gives you a little preview of just how fast and flowy this place is. You can see they're all very long radius corners, except for down at turn 5. Now this is one of the easiest tracks to learn because every corner has sealer that tells you exactly where to drive. You'll see this really dark sealer that just kind of follows the driving line. And not only is it exactly where you would want the car, but it actually has more grip than the actual pavement. So just follow the black sealer and you're in the right place. But there is still some nuance and definitely a lot of bravery to getting around here. The other general note is that this place is very high speed and there's a lot of kind of balancing the car with braking into corners, managing your entry speed more so than threshold braking and then cornering, like you might see at many other places. So you may have to ask the car to multitask a little bit more than you're used to. The last thought is there are plenty of corners on this track that don't really have great reference points, so you're going to have to start building your muscle memory up just a little bit more than tracks with good brake markers and turn-in points. So we're starting the lap off on a very short straightaway actually. We're going to be on the left side of the track from the previous lap, coming under the start-finish stand and under a pedestrian bridge that crosses just after that. And just at that pedestrian bridge is where the track starts to go downhill for the first time. And most of turn 1 is downhill throughout the entire duration of the corner. So the thing is actually blind on the way in and it falls away from you as you come towards it. So it'll come up a little quicker than you think. But a good turn-in point is a little bit of a gravel patch that's off to the left right here, just on track left coming into the corner. It's going to be a very slow turn-in and you'll also see that black sealer that's going to help us get around the entire lap. You're going to place that car just inside the black sealer and that'll lead us down to just a slightly late apex up against the curb that's on the inside of this corner. Now the curb on the inside is paved all the way up to the pit wall, but it's at a different angle to the rest of the track. It's not as on camber, so you don't really want to use much of that curb. Just kind of get down to it, right side's right up against it, and once we've apexed pretty late, you'll follow that black sealer back to the outside where we can track out to the curb. Now as we track out, we do have a little bit of runoff before the grass comes in, so you can use that runoff with the left side tires. I certainly wouldn't cross it more than maybe just a tire width or two before getting back on the track, because this grass that picks up right about here will come up very, very quickly. Turn 1 is an extremely fast corner in itself, and again, being downhill until right about the track out point, it certainly rushes you at the start of the lap. So just be patient and start off nice and smooth. So as we exit turn 1, we're going to work our way over to the right side of the track pretty quickly, and you're driving uphill towards a pedestrian bridge, and that's about all you can see at this point. But that bridge is just about our turn-in point to start leading the car into turn 2. That bridge is also right at the top of the hill, so as you cross underneath it, you'll start to see the corner start to go downhill, and the corner goes downhill from right here at the bridge all the way to the bottom. So this entire duration is downhill pretty significantly. It's a huge drop. But the turn-in is just under this bridge, and it's going to be a very slow turn-in to lead us down to this first apex. Now turn 2 is going to be a double apex corner right here at the top and way down here at the bottom, with a little bit of track out in between the two. So having turned in underneath that bridge, our target is a bit of a hump right here at the top at that first apex. Now that hump will kind of make the car go light and naturally track out to about mid-track if you catch it just right. So left side's towards that hump, you'll feel the car kind of yump over top of it, kind of like those jumpy back roads that you have driven on. It makes your stomach drop a little bit, then track out a bit towards the middle, and right towards the bottom is where another patch of black sealer will pick up and lead you through the finish towards that second apex. Now all that sounds very simple. There's more bravery involved in turn 2 than technique. But again, turning in before or at that pedestrian bridge, getting your braking done as you cross under that bridge and lead the car down to that first apex. At that hump is the time where you want to pick up the throttle to kind of balance the car. We're not accelerating yet, but we're going to pick up the throttle to balance the car, minimize the drama through the middle of the corner, and then as the car settles into the grip, especially when it gets to that black sealer, is where you want to be aggressively feeding throttle, and you should be able to power really hard out of turn 2. Now there's a whole big zone down here at the bottom of turn 2 that you can apex. There's really not a point where you apex. As long as you get down to the inside curb on the driver's left here at the bottom, you're gonna do okay. And it really doesn't change what happens between turns 2 and 3 or the speed through turn 2 much. The key is that first apex up here at the top and balancing the car to carry your speed through down to the bottom. So after we've hit our second apex at turn 2, we're gonna track all the way out to the right. And there's a lot of pavement out here now, so all of this, you should have plenty of runoff room to kind of catch the car if you have an incident or a mistake that happens somewhere on the track here at turn 2. But again, we're tracking out to the right side tires over the curb or on top of the curb, but we don't want to get the whole car outside. And just kind of keep carrying that trajectory off to the left. We want to get over to the left as early as possible and buy ourselves time to get set up for turn 3. Because we're going so fast at the bottom of turn 2, the braking zone for turn 3 comes up super quick. So turn 3 is our first corner without a really good reference point for where to brake and where to turn in, but a couple of places that you can use as a reference to start to build your muscle memory up. The first is the runoff room on the right side of the track will end just about here. And it'll turn back to grass. So that's a first one on your right. Now on your left, there should be a billboard right here that's a little bit past it that you can pay attention to. And the third one is a cutout in the wall right here on your right, where that wall has rejoined and you could kind of drive a car behind that point. Should be painted in orange. So you can either use where the grass is, that billboard, or the orange point on the wall where it ends. Any of those are a decent area to kind of start to brake and slow the car down. But again, just build your muscle memory off of that. So wherever your braking point ends up being, this is a pretty good braking zone. It's going to be a firm brake but brief. And be very patient with the turn-in for turn 3. This corner is actually a very late apex and uphill. The apex is way around here on the back side of the corner, right where the inside curb ends. And you'll see on your way in that your natural instinct might be to turn in and run that inside curb, but the black sealer starts way out here and then leads you down to that late apex. So take a note of where that black sealer is and drive to it, and then start your corner down to that late apex rather than cutting your distance up the hill. And that'll really help you flow speed down into turn 3, or I should say up towards turn 3, much more naturally than your instincts might have told you would. Now again, I said that late apex happens right here at the end of the curb, around the back side of the corner, and that's the point that is also kind of cresting and leveling out to finish this corner off. So that's where you can pick up the power and track out early. There's a curb way out here on the left, feels like about halfway down the straightaway, but you can track out way before that and just kind of run the rim of the exit of turn 3 to drive past that curb, approaching turn 4. So got one more big fast flowy corner before the rhythm kind of changes here at Mosport. We're going to work the car back across to the right side for turn 4. And turn 4 is, I consider, an extension of this straightaway to get to turn 5. There is a pedestrian bridge right here, and it is a significant drop, but the corner itself is fairly mild, so it's a little bit more of a bravery corner than really a corner itself. But we want to have the corner on the car on the far right side of the track, and we're going to turn in again just before that pedestrian bridge. It's a great reference point. Turning in nice and slow input, and we want to end up on the left side of the track at the bottom of the hill. That's going to open up turn 5 for us nicely. So our car is ending up right here from the top of the hill here. It just has to drop like 10 stories before we get there. One trick to help you through turn 4, right towards the exit of the corner here on your left, is a drainage gutter. Now it's not a curb, so you don't want to actually get up on top of it, but it's kind of where the water would run down the track, just off of the track. If you can tuck up next to that on the left side, right through here, that'll tell you that you're apexing late enough and still put you down at the bottom of the hill on the left. If you're on the inside of the track before that drainage gutter picks up on your left, then you're tight too early and you're liable to end up on the far right as we come out of turn 4, which is definitely not where we want to be. The last thought through turn 4, again, it is kind of an extension of this straightaway, so you shouldn't be slowing down much for it at all. If anything, you want to just slowly back off the throttle, maybe a little bit of brake towards the top just to make sure the car is stable and comfortable through turn 4. But in a lot of cars that I've driven here, it's actually just completely flat out and you're just holding on for the ride down the hill. So this is an extremely fast corner, and again, it helps me to think of it as an extension of this straightaway to get to turn 5. So now that we've gotten the car set up all the way on the far left coming through the exit of 4, approaching turn 5, we're going to break this down into kind of 3 sections. I've got turn 5A and 5C. Those are going to be our corners, and 5B is kind of our track out point. So when I use these as references, This is all just turn 5, but I'm going to kind of use those numbers or letters to break this out because every dynamic that your car can possibly experience is about to happen in the next 10 seconds in this little section of track. It's pretty rowdy. So starting back here at the bottom of the hill, we've powered all the way down the hill here. From the time that you hit the brakes essentially is actually all uphill through turn 5A towards 5B. And the main goal, while keeping the car kind of on that black sealer that's helping you through this entire section, is to maintain momentum in a way that you can cross the 5A apex and track out to the outside here at 5B, what we're calling 5B. If you have to reaccelerate to get to that outside, you've under-attacked 5A. If you overshoot 5B, that means you've over-attacked 5A. So 5A is really just keeping momentum in a way that tracks you naturally to the outside and sets you up for 5C. Now, the main corner here is 5C to get you onto this long back straightaway. So really, 5A and B, where we're trying to carry our speed, is still just to set up for 5C. Now, a couple tricks I've learned in a couple of different cars here. Again, the braking is all uphill, and as soon as you get to the bottom of this hill, you can brake really hard because the gravity is helping you slow down. The compression of the car has a lot of grip, and as you're on your way up that hill, you have a huge opportunity to brake pretty straight and very hard. But as you get towards the top of the crest, or towards the top of the uphill through turn 5, you're going to have to come off the brake pedal and let the car settle down because it's going from uphill to getting light as you come over the top of the hill. Now we have a moment where the track is level right out here at turn 5B, and then it goes downhill slightly to tuck in for the apex at 5C. And 5C is actually on camber quite a bit and helps you kind of rotate the car through the corner. So as soon as your drive axle gets to the apex at turn 5C, whether it's a front wheel drive car on the front axle or a rear wheel drive car for the rear axle, as soon as you get kind of tucked into that curb right here at 5C, you should be able to feed power aggressively, track all the way out to the right, and just cut the distance through this turn 6 right here. A couple of other notes for Moss Corner down here at turn 5. Definitely don't want to use the inside curb here on your right. You can track out a little bit on the curb here on 5B on your left, and again, no curb on the inside of turn 5C at the true actual late apex here at turn 5. And the last thing that will definitely help is visuals through this corner to kind of help yourself get through it. Because this corner feels so kind of chaotic and you've just gone downhill so fast and uphill so fast and you're slowing the car down, there's all this stuff happening. It's easy to lose discipline with your vision, but as you're coming through turn 5A uphill, if you can just consciously be looking for the apex curb at turn 5C or even the track out curb at 5C, that will help you keep your attention towards the right direction and at least efficiently figure out the best way to salvage what's happened or maximize what has happened through 5A and B. It's really easy to pay attention to the outside wall or the outside curb or be focusing on what's happening through this phase. Remember, it's all about the apex here and tracking out here to get up the straightaway. So be looking in that direction. So once we've gotten out of Moss Corner at turn 5, we're going to cling to the inside at turn 6 and then power up this long, slightly bent back straight. And because it's bent to the right down the entire duration of the straightaway, it's best to just cling to the right side of the track all the way until this last little apex curb here. And then we're going to track out to the left side where we're finally cresting right about here for a pedestrian bridge. Now that bridge is our first reference point for the last couple corners on the track, so it's nice to get a breather after the first bit of the lap down this back straightaway, but we've got 3 more corners to go. So having gotten over to the left side of the track, the car will be coming under this pedestrian bridge. In general, these last 3 corners actually drive more like S's than they drive like corners individually because each one links to the next one and each one is slower than the previous one. So each corner kind of has its sacrifice for the following corner, and you're just trying to keep your speed up through what I think feel more like S's at the end of the day than independent corners. Let's rewind back to the entry of turn 8. Again, this pedestrian bridge is a good reference point where we might start braking or lifting off the throttle, but it's actually, there's a long way before you get to turn 8 from that pedestrian bridge. So if anything, just kind of lift off there or brake there the first time and realize how much extra space you have to work with here, and then start to work your way down this, this wall to get to an actual braking point. I will tell you, if you brake at this bridge here, you're going to be braking way too early in most cars. Now as we get towards turn 8, this corner is actually uphill and gains a bit of camber through to a very, very, very late apex. The goal is to set up all the way on driver's right for turn 9. So as the corner finishes, we want to end up all the way on the right here. So keeping in mind that our late apex is the goal, turn 8 is actually more about using momentum and scrubbing speed through the entire corner rather than braking and maintaining speed once you get to the corner. You can use almost the entire first half of the corner to slow the car down up until you get to the sealer that is about halfway through the corner, and that is where you're going to kind of carry the trajectory to a late apex. What that means is this is an extremely high speed entry, but you really just kind of let the car do the work for you through the middle of the corner. You're going to get a little bit tight to the track here on the entry, let the car track out to about mid-track and pick up that black sealer to then get back down to a late apex again. But again, use entry speed and use the scrub of the corner to slow the car down more than the brakes in this phase. It's a very light braking zone, even in faster cars. You shouldn't need to slow the car down much. Keep that momentum up. Once you get onto that sealer about halfway through the corner, that'll lead us down to a late apex. It'll increase the grip as well, and that's about where you want to have the car slowed down to and just maintain that speed through the rest of the corner. So towards that sealer is where you pick up the maintenance throttle. You should be definitely off the brakes at that point and just kind of maintaining as much momentum as you can before late apexing just as the curb ends on your right, and then we get to look forward to turn 9. Now, as I mentioned, each of these corners do connect to the next one, so having late apexed, really rather than kind of driving straight for a minute and trying to turn super late, we're actually just going to drive almost straight across the track from the right side to the left. And again, using the scrub of the car and the corner to slow down to get through turn 9. So we're progressively slowing down through turn 8, and then we're progressively slowing again through turn 9 to get to turn 10. So again, we're driving almost straight towards turn 9 and then slowing the car through the corner to end up on the far right side of the track one more time to set up for turn 10. There's another patch of black sealer through the middle of turn 9 that'll help gain grip, and it leads you over to the right side of the track. Now on the exit here, you do want to maintain as much apex speed as possible through turn 9, but if you end up any more than maybe a half a car width away from the left side of the track here, you've tracked out too much, and now you've added too much work to get back to turn 10 here. Once we've come out of turn 9, we've got the car fully on the left side of the track, and just about where the sealer turns in for turn 10, we're literally just following that lane like a slot car through to a relatively late apex right here. Now turn 10 is slightly uphill, so that should kind of help rotate the car through the corner, but then we can pick up the power and use all of the track out curb up onto the front straightaway. That should help kind of keep the car on the track and end up on the far left again. If you've done a good job setting up through turn 8 and 9, turn 10 really shouldn't be much of a challenge. It's only when you start to attack turn 9 on the exit too much that turn 10 becomes a problem. So that completes a lap at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Now we're going to hop on board a car and see what it looks like. So now we're hopping on board, and this is a 2019 Honda Civic TCR race car. So it's a factory race car, sequential gearbox, a little over 300 horsepower, front wheel drive, turbo on race slicks, aero. I mean, this is a really, really fast car and very momentum driven for Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. The lap you're about to see has an average speed of 105 miles an hour. That's how fast this track is with this car. So it's going to come at us quick. Coming up onto the front straightaway, we're going to cross the start-finish line on the left side of the track. Already going downhill into turn 1. Watch for that little patch on the left. There it is. We're turning in, staying on that black sealer all the way through the duration of the corner, but super, super high speed, tracking out to the left and quickly back across the track under the pedestrian bridge where we start to turn in. Now braking down to that hump. There's the first hump, middle of the track, and then onto the sealer for a second late apex here, tracking all the way out to the right, crossing the track quickly and getting our braking done. Again, super patient on the turn in, and there's our late apex at the end of the curb. Now we can track out pretty early. There's that curb that's very late on our left down the straightaway towards turn 4, and we're going to turn in just before the bridge again for turn 4, crossing to the left side of the track to end up on the far left for turn 5. Now hard on the brakes up the hill. Watch coming off the brake pedal. Now relieving the pressure out to the outside and then down to a late apex again at turn 5C. Now we get to cling to the left side and take a little bit of a breather. Down the back straightaway, clinging to the right side and just trying to cut the distance up this straightaway here. Now just past the final kink, notice this straightaway is all uphill as well, but just past this final kink, we'll start to track out to the left towards that last bridge. Now under the last bridge, we should be able to see turn 8. We're gonna brake super deep down towards the corner. Notice how much scrub. I'm just relying on not a lot of throttle until we pick up the throttle here. Late apex at turn 8, straight towards turn 9, but slowing the car through the entire duration of turn 9, slowing the car one more time, and then picking up the power to get out of turn 10, all the curve on the left and back up onto the front straight. So those are my tips for Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, which brings us to our track scores. First up, we have our fun factor. I'm going 10 out of 10. This track is absolutely one of the most fun. It's kind of the 10 most intense and fun corners you can ever think of. 9 of them in a row plus a hairpin. That's kind of what this track is to me, and I absolutely love it. Next up, we have our risk factor, and I'm gonna give it an 8 on the risk factor. Like I said, about 10 years ago, I would have given it a 10 out of 10. It used to be a very, very scary place, but they've moved a lot of the walls back and paved some of the runoff that allows you to be a little bit more confident when you're going full send, and you absolutely have to go full send to be fast at this place. So I'll give it an 8. And lastly, we have our technicality. I'm actually only going to give it about a 4 for technicality. It's really not the most technical place. As I mentioned, it's pretty straightforward to learn where to place the car. And once you build up that bravery and that trust that you know where to put the car, you're just having a good time, but it's really not the most technical place, only a 4. So my overall track score for Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, 10 out of 10. This is as fun as they come as far as I'm concerned. It's totally my style of track, so I appreciate that this maybe not be everyone's favorite kind of racetrack, but the super high speed, the fast flowing, the elevation change that puts the car exactly where you want to be all the time, I absolutely love this track, and I think everyone should go. So that does it for Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. We do offer driver coaching packages from remote all the way up to trackside private coaching, and a whole lot more here at ASM and Tomo Coaching. So get a hold of us at the website if you're interested in that. But otherwise, I hope you found that video helpful, and thanks for watching.